Hello, happy bros. Hey, you're about to get a face full of the Ken Bozak. He's a mentor. That's what I heard. He's a connector. Oh, yeah. He's a brilliant leader. I've seen it. He's Ken Bozak. Oh, happy bro. You gotta get some Bitcoin and hold it. Happy bros. You gotta get those NFTs and you gotta hodl that stuff. You gotta hodl it. Cause I'm Ken bro. We got your Bitcoin, bro. He's an original. Buy some NFTs and hold them. How many times does he have to tell you? Going to the moon. Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Going to the moon. We're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. 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 Yeah, we're going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Bro, we're going to the moon. Oh yeah, we're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. Real high. Yep. Real high. Hello, happy bros. Come get some Ken Bozak.
All right, there we go. And we're live, GM, in the afternoon. How goes it? This is not another Bitcoin podcast. I'm Ken Bozak, my co-host Double O Tats. How goes it, bro? Okay. And our guest today is Paper Buddha. How goes it, bro?
Hey, good to be here, man. Thanks. Living the
Thanks,
dream.
man. It was good to see you at ETH Denver. I hope I get to run into you at Bitcoin 26 in Vegas this month. Are you attending?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Cool. Same. That is the plan. I guess for a quick, intro to the audience, I guess let them know a little bit about, who you are, Paper Buddha, how you got into crypto and what you're doing in the space.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Let's see. I've been in the space since 2013. Came in early on the Bitcoin stuff, really seeing it as a store of value, working with a lot of people in the hills with, looking how to change their cash into crypto. Came from the kind of drug dealing Silk Road era. A lot of fun. My family is multi-generational weed, so I was a weed guy in California, messing around with Bitcoin early days. And then, just got really hooked on to exactly what crypto is. I read The Sovereign Individual very early. That book came out in the 90s and really predicted a lot of crypto, a lot of, government as a service, a lot of being a sovereign individual. And that stuff stuck with me. Read the white paper. I was working in a kind of an adjacent technology sector. So read a white paper and it made a lot of sense to me and started screwing around with Bitcoin early. Did all of that fun stuff, did the ICO boom, did a lot of that. Fucking dental coin, thought that we were going to revolutionize dentistry. You know what I mean? Like lots of
Yep.
fun. And then, I was working in the legal cannabis space and just kind of got burnt out on it, around the age of 40, looking around at what was really cool when I was a kid, this kind of counterculture movement around cannabis and psychedelics. And then, I'm looking around and I see a bunch of money, shiny shoes people, just kind of corporate takeover of the weed world, and decided, man, I don't want that to be the last part of my career. So a little bit of a midlife crisis. Looked over and saw Beeple do a $69 million sale, and I was like, oh shit, that's the man breaking the fastest mile right there. Like, oh, it can be done. You can come over here and make a bag, and start a good career and get paid well to do the art thing. I think that was about 2020. And so, I decided, great, I'm going to go ahead and go balls to the wall, become an artist, what I've always wanted to do. Early in my life, I was a graffiti artist. I was a DJ in the rave scene in the 90s. And, I kind of had to put that away and go to work and make money. At the time, it wasn't, being an artist was not a path to revenue, right? So I spent 20 years in the business world doing the cannabis thing, and like unfortunately put away all that art stuff for a while. But then, in my 40s, boom, it came all back. Definitely had some pent up artistic stuff that needed to come out, right? So just again, like really went hard in the paint. Asking myself, what kind of art do I want to contribute to the world? And really, it's a mixture of the things that I love in this world of cannabis, of psychedelics, of Buddhism, of comic books. So mixing original pulp comics with traditional Buddhist art. And yeah, that's the kind of speed run. Yeah.
Nice, man. Well, I mean, you definitely inspired a few questions. First off, with having so much, closeness to the cannabis industry and now being so, ingrained in the crypto community, why is there such a disconnect in that, those two industries? Why don't we see the cannabis market embracing crypto more, considering all the hardships they have with the legacy financial models and banking infrastructure? It just seems like the writing's on the wall, but you never see a dispensary accept crypto. You never see a dispensary storing their savings or value in crypto. And then they get raided by some federal agency and they lose all their money. But like, I don't know. Like, I'm just curious. With your finger on that pulse, why is there such a detachment from like the cannabis industry and the crypto industry?
Yeah, that's a killer question, man. I think there's really like three different cannabis industries. There's the legal cannabis industry, which is dot your I's, cross your T's, a lot of, again, shiny shoes guys. They come in, they drop 50 million, they need to be regulated and compliant. So they can't really take a whole lot of risks, right? They look at themselves very enterprise focused. And it's hard to steer that battleship. Then you've got the medical market, which is protected under the law. Uh, for the most part, a little bit more risk takers. It's a smaller niche market. So you're not going to have these giant multi-$100 million multi-state operators. They're more likely mom and pop operators. And then you've got what we call the free market, right? Which some people call the illicit market, the black market, whatever, bro. We call that shit the free market. Those are the risk takers. Those are the smart guys that are not paying 82% taxes. Most of their business is in cash. And so they're trying to actively, find solutions to keep that out of reach from Uncle Sam. So those are the people that are more experimental. My friends that are in the free market are definitely relying on things like Bitcoin as a store of value, right? Like, okay, great, I can take half of this cash and I can convert it.
Mm.
As
Damn
it's
it. That
been
might
since
even be
Silk
somewhat
Road.
of my own fault then too, because I don't really go to the free market anymore. I mean, I kind of refuse to, in the sense that, ever since the K2 error and Spice error, like I just you never really know what you're getting anymore. I mean, back in the day, like in the 90s when I started smoking weed, the sketchiest thing you would get from like someone selling weed would be they accidentally gave you weed they laced with, PCP, and they didn't mean to give that to you. They were going to upcharge somebody for that dust. So you may have got dusted by accident, but like you're never gonna get like, fake synthetic shit that's gonna get you hooked on a whole new thing. And so I just straight go to dispensaries and I never see, they don't accept crypto. But yeah, I would imagine that the freelance market, would definitely be inclined to, considering that it's like it's on Cash App now. You could accept Bitcoin on PayPal or whatever. So it definitely does make sense for that. And that medical market is getting a lot bigger. I hear a lot of the tonics and tinctures are starting to get approved for like insurance to cover it now. And I really am hopeful for that to take up. But yeah, the MedMen with their shiny shoes and shit. I never liked the MedMen kind of like franchise dispensaries. I always tried to kind of find those mom and pop as you know, mom and pop as dispensaries can be with their like multi-million-dollar overhead. I do try to find those dispensaries. Oh man. You know, you mentioned also that you know the art and people and stuff like that, and you know with AI getting more into art, it just feels like artists had a moment where they weren't the butt of the joke anymore. Where it's like, oh, you have an art degree, what are you going to do with that? Owe money for the rest of your life? Like, no, I'm going to get a job being a graphic designer, whatever. But then there was that NFT moment where people made that $69 million with digital art, and it sort of gave artists that that justification of like spending so much time in their trade and in their skill. And that was a very short-lived moment, considering AI is sort of coming into the art world, and with tokenization and all these agents and bots, they're minting their own NFTs, and we don't even know if the person behind that smart contract is a person. It could just be part AI. Do you see any value coming to art that could be authenticated, made by person? Do you see any value in man-made art being tokenized versus like AI art being tokenized? What's the difference, and where does the value lie?
Yeah, I think that's a killer question, man. I think we're going to have, human made goods is going to be a big deal. The same way there's certifications for non-GMO or gluten-free, it's going to be handcrafted.
Good
Like
point.
I hear people talk about like, this is handcrafted code. I didn't make this vibe coding. This is old school. And I've heard people say that already. Like, oh yeah, this is old school. I actually got in there and wrote the code myself. And I think that there will be a premium, but I do also think that not only will there be a premium on handcrafted non-AI art, but I think that the most valuable art will actually be a combination of both. Yes, this is part of it is handcrafted, but I used AI on the parts that I could really accelerate with AI, right? And so to show a mastery of both of these things, and then you've got on the other end of the spectrum pure AI slop that somebody just prompted, right?
Yeah.
So
Sora, dude,
the
fucking Sora.
Right. And the other thing to think about is that AI as a collector. How do you feel about AI collecting art? And so I'm joking with my collectors now, and it's like you better collect a paper Buddha piece while you still can, because the agents are going to come for it, man. And like the agents are going to price the humans out of being able to collect my art. Like I'd imagine that's already happening with people like Xcopy and Beeple, and there's so many bots and so much AI coming for that art no matter what, that the human is going to have a hard time buying it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I never really thought about being priced out by AI before. I feel like Double O's trying to talk, but we haven't been able to hear a word out of you, bro, since the show started. Just so you know, Double O. I feel like he was trying to chime in, but we couldn't hear him. But yeah, I never, still can't hear you. But I don't know
Ain't
why
that a bitch?
that. Oh, there you go. That's that voice.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
coming in and out. You're in and out, in and out.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that I'm, what I'm saying, you know what I mean, not being loud.
Oh, okay, got you. All right, but
But,
yeah, well, AI
oh,
pricing people out. I mean, especially what's going to happen is AI is just going to buy art from other AI, and it's going to become like their version of like money laundering and you know what I mean, like embezzlement and everything else that people, the humans, do with art. AI is probably going to do the same shit with art.
Yeah, there's going to be interesting shit for sure. Like, think about it. All of these AI, you spin up your OpenClaw, your Hermes, or whatever, and they don't have a body, bro. What's the first thing they need? A PFP. Like, it makes sense to me that the PFP craze is definitely coming back. I don't know if it's going to be slop, it's going to be AI on AI, or if it's going to be AI chasing down punks or tezzards or like original,
Oh, dude, for
PFPs. I
some,
don't
I
know.
mean, for whatever it will be, I think we'll probably be looking at what we will consider as like fractal art. It'll be something like their fingerprint is their PFP. I don't think it'll be what we consider, oh, that's a PFP. It might look like it, but it will be like, that what was that, Mallrats, where they're looking at that picture and it's like a sailboat and the little girl goes up and she's like, what's this? And the teacher's like, if you stare at that picture long enough, you'll see a boat. And she's like, oh, I see a scooter. And he's like, dumbass, that's not a schooner, it's a boat. And he's like, a schooner is a boat, stupid. Anyway, I feel like AI might be able to do something like that where like it will see like the hidden message in the PFP if it's AI, but if it's just us looking at it, we probably won't see like, its actual identity that other AI see when it looks at it. It'll be very fractal.
Yeah, probably. I think, like you said, though, there's going to be two versions because they still have to figure out how to interact with the human, right? And for us to see some weird fractal shit, maybe that doesn't hit us as hard as a PFP of like, oh, I'm okay. Now I associate that with being an entity, right? Like you got a crypto punk. I assume you're part of the NFT community.
True, true. You said you got in 2013, and you've really seen a lot of, things rug, a lot of different, markets in the industry, kind of manifest through like the ICOs, the NFTs, now RWAs and everything else. With all the exits and scams and everything, I don't think it counts as like a scam, but it could be because it was an inside problem. But Drafts Hack, have you seen the $285 million exploit that was a result of a 6-month infiltration?
Yeah, we were just talking about this in one of my Telegram groups, man. The craziness of
Crazy.
that even being able to happen, right? Of like just laying low for 6 months and kind of Manchurian candidate your way in.
Yeah, I think that is the first of many. I think Coinbase has one of the longest running infiltration psyop things happening that any platform could possibly ever imagine. I almost can't wait for Brian Armstrong's downfall, but I see this as something sort of like a telltale sign of something's bigger. This isn't a one-off. This isn't a Black Mirror episode. This infiltration, it was, in my opinion, probably the smallest one we'll ever see and the shortest one that there ever will be. 6 months for $285 million. Imagine what a couple years at Coinbase got somebody that's still waiting, or at a hardware wallet, or what's that one? Bobby Lee has the Ballet wallets where he pre-prints the private key onto the Ballet hardware wallet and provides you with the pre-printed private key. I mean, imagine the infiltration in a company like the Ballet wallet and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, just come on in and grab the print queue, and then now I can see exactly what print jobs were sent and what they said, and like I got everyone's shit. That seems pretty risky.
Yeah, dude, I think again, this is just one of those stories that's going to seem like a non-event, but because it was the first, it will go down in history. Draft is definitely going down in history for this. Sort of like Mount Gox, it wasn't the biggest, but it was the first. We got FTX and everything else, but it was the first. So people still talk about Mount Gox, and I think people will talk about Draft, but or drift. But yeah, I don't know if this is a one-off. I am very worried about bigger issues coming out of this. But anyway, with sort of like, a 2013, introduction to crypto and all that, said, what are some things that you're concerned about, right now in this space? Is there anything that you're seeing as sort of a thin ice layer?
Yeah, I mean, couple things. So, AI is the double-edged sword. It's the elephant in the room. It's like it is crypto. It's the use case, right? AI and crypto go together like peanut butter and jelly. But at the same time, that's also a huge threat vector. The fact that now it's really easy to spin up 1,000 agents and say, like, let's go do some network penetration and let's go figure out, whose keys we can break. Let's go figure out who's got shitty software, who's got a bunk ass blockchain that's easy to infiltrate. And I think we're starting to see that stuff right now. You know, things like quantum encryption, a lot of smart folks around the room are working on that in certain blockchains, but other blockchains not so much. So I think that we'll see quantum encryption be cracked here very, very soon, and
Mm-hmm.
people that are able to adapt. Historically, Bitcoin, Ethereum have been able to adapt to these kind of threats. Tezos, you've got on-chain governance, they'll be just fine. It's very easy for them to add a proposal. But then there's some chains that are just not prepared, right? Ton is a good example. The Telegram Open Network of like that's going to be difficult for them to overcome a lot of these security risks.
Yeah,
You know,
especially because
and
of the
then,
gamification aspect. If you're AI with quantum, good luck.
bro, exactly, it's going to be a total game, right? I think the era speaking of games, the era of like airdrop farming is pretty over, right? And in an agentic world, it's really easy for me to spin up 1,000 wallets and start airdrop farming. You know, so I think that the incentivization has to get more clever around the horn. How do you incentivize new users for your blockchain? You know, but then on the positive side, you look at the DAO ecosystem, Tau, right? And you look at BitTensor and the network and the subnets and what they're doing, perfectly suited for this AI future. They've already run a decentralized LLM on their network, right? And so watching all of that play out feels a lot like Endgame. It feels a lot like, okay, the institutional adoption that we've all talked about for a decade is finally here. And the AI use case that we've all talked about for a decade is finally here. So, like, now what? Now what do we do? Right. And so keeping the indie blockchains indie, like I think I bring up Tezos again, it's still accessible to the people. You know, get in there, start a baker, start learning, start fucking around. Uh, Starting an Ethereum validator, a little bit harder right now, but there's roadmap plans to get that changed in the future. You know, so getting involved on the protocol level, I think now is the right time for that, as there's more uncertainty with AI, with big institutional adoption. Um, you know, and how far we've come with this institutional adoption where, you know, at first we were like, none of these institutions will ever adopt crypto. That doesn't make sense. So yeah, we want them to do that. So now I've got friends that like won't even buy Bitcoin because Michael Saylor owns 5% of the shit. And there's
Yep.
like, it's not decentralized. Like, fuck it, bro. This guy already, he fucked it up for everybody. And I'm like, really? Already? We went all the way from one end to the other, you know, but it happened real quick.
I love that you mentioned the quantum thing because I always looked at crypto, even when I got in 2016. The first thing that came to my mind when I found out about like the Internet of Money with Bitcoin and the Internet of Things with Ethereum and all that was like, wait, this is like the world's biggest honeypot for quantum computing. There is no like test to publicly prove that you have achieved quantum computing. But SHA-256, I mean, that is the public test. If you want to prove to the world that you have achieved quantum computing or shit, if you want to prove it to yourself, take a crack at SHA-256. And if you do it, that is proof that you have achieved quantum computing. And then when it comes to like all the infrastructure, it just makes sense that it is transferable to an AI infrastructure. A lot of Bitcoin miners have a button they push when they decide to switch from Bitcoin mining to AI data computation. And they just switch back to Bitcoin, switch back to AI. Same hardware. When that does eventually become irrelevant due to quantum computing, the infrastructure for AI has been incentivized by the honeypot that was incentivizing the creation of quantum computing. So it all makes sense to me if you zoom out and look at it as like a historian researching something that already happened. It just makes sense that yeah, crypto, SHA-256, incentive to create quantum computing, crack it, get it, and then just that it just makes so much sense to me. And that's what I'm truly kind of worried about is we're at that point now where the honeypot is so large, the incentive to achieve quantum computing. I really think that's the actual, space race. Everybody keeps saying like, the race to the moon was a war deterrent or whatever to kind of like, bankrupt the Russians and stuff. And I think people are looking at crypto as the same space race in the same sense. They're trying to say, oh, we'll bankrupt other people by them investing in this infrastructure of crypto, blah, blah, blah. They can't afford to go to war, whatever. No, it's quantum computing. And whoever puts their flag on that moon, that's it. I mean, you got the codes to every one of your enemies' nuclear power plants. Like you're in, like that is final frontier Star Trek level shit, whoever achieves it. So, I mean, it's a bad thing and a good thing all at the same time. I really think it's inevitable, though, because of the infrastructure we built for AI to survive. It's a decentralized environment. AI, and even in any movie for AI, you don't see it being as decentralized as the infrastructure for Bitcoin is. There's always a computer somewhere, or there's a server somewhere, right? There's a satellite somewhere that can be destroyed. Not with this. Just the same way you cannot destroy Bitcoin, you will not be able to destroy AI.
I was just about to ask you, like, do you feel like AI can be destroyed?
Nah, not anymore. Not with
No,
the
nope.
Bitcoin infrastructure we have. The fact that AI could hire somebody that they don't even know is being hired by AI to be a construction company, to build a building. You know, AI can do all this with crypto. They could actually have a building built, have power supplied to it, have people working and maintaining their servers, and nobody would even know that there's not a human boss at the top of the fucking food chain paying everybody on the down. Like, nobody would ever know at right now. With just the technology we have today, there's somebody could have written a bot. They have a company. They could have had a heart attack and died months ago, and the bot's still running the company. You wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, I built one of those.
Damn,
Uh,
Oh shit.
that's crazy.
so like I would say that since OpenClaw, which is probably 60 to 90 days ago, ever since that went open source and became the top thing on GitHub, there's no going back, right?
Open
Because this
fucking
is,
source on April
yeah,
Fool's Day.
this is our like our version of not your keys, not your crypto is OpenClaw running your own local LLM, right? If you're just calling Claude or Gemini or OpenAI and you're using that web shit, bro, that's just giving away your information for free. You're
Oh
gonna
shit.
ask it, how does a hippopotamus taste? And now I'm on a list because they know that I like bushmeat. And they're like, oh, Paper Buddha wants to know what a hippo tastes like. Like, put them on a list. But if I've got OpenClaw and I'm running my own local model, I could ask all kind of weird questions like that and not feel like anyone's looking at my shit. So
Or
not
be manipulated to
your
buy a lawnmower on an
Hey,
ad on
hey,
Facebook
what
or
type
some
of
shit.
weird ass questions you trying to ask though? I'm trying to see what type of questions you trying to ask. You talking about weird questions?
bro, like the hippopotamus question's great, man. Like I'm not trying to have some animal rights activist come to my house because I wanted to know how like what a hippopotamus tastes like, man. I'm watching some African documentary. I'm like, I wonder if you could eat that motherfucker. And I just type it in. And they're like, oh yeah, these fools
He
eat
said
it.
I'm
It's like a
watching this
sweet red
African
meat.
documentary.
Yo,
You know what I
hippopotamuses
mean?
are more dangerous than sharks. Hippos kill, I think, 10 times more people than sharks do every year on average. I'm pretty sure that's the number. Hippos don't fuck
Yeah.
around. Like, they'll chase you down. They're very aggressive.
Yeah,
Like
and that make more sense. 'Cause, like I can imagine, a hippo having more human interactions than a shark would anyway. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Especially like
They're
being
in and
closer
out
to
of land.
land.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah,
So
yeah. You
just off
look at
that
his
knowledge
eyes,
right
he
there is
looks at,
kind of a no brainer.
you guys lock eyes and that fucker's coming at you. You can't lock eyes with a shark, you know what I mean?
Right, facts. Yeah.
Facts.
But no, the,
You've been in this space a while, and from even me, I mean, you got in about 3 years before I did, 2016, 2013, and I've heard of a lot of solo Bitcoin miners hitting. And I don't know if you saw the news, but a couple days ago, a solo miner hit the jackpot again. Uh, about $210,000 block reward on a solo miner, bro.
$210,000.
Basically off a fucking flash drive. And so I wanted to ask you, Paper Buddha, bro, like, what are your thoughts on those? Like, do you think as we keep moving into, a more, shiny shoe crypto environment, is there opportunity for solo miners still, or is this something that is compoundingly getting more difficult?
yeah, I think it's more and more difficult for Bitcoin miners. So I run a cluster of Ethereum validators with a couple of friends. And then I'm a solo Tezos baker. So I run my own validator on Tezos as well. And you do the financial modeling of those things and you're fingers crossed, you're hoping for one of those big rewards, right? So just running like one Ethereum validator, you're making probably 2 ETH. It's 36 ETH to put down to stake for an Ethereum validator. You're making right around 1.5 to 2 ETH in rewards per month. If you get a fucking dope, like if you get lucky and you hit a lottery, you're gonna double that. You're gonna get 4 ETH, and you're like, oh shit, yeah. So you're actually sitting there, at least I am. I'm sitting there making sure I'm good. So when a block reward comes, I have the potential to get that.
Mm-hmm.
Missed the boat with when we went from doing desktop mining to switching over to ASICs mining with Bitcoin. I never went and got an ASICs miner. I never kind of upgraded to a data center kind of a deal, which is different than what I'm doing with Ethereum, right? Ethereum is kind of right on the cusp where right now you can still run on a pretty powerful edge device, on a pretty powerful thing that you got running at home. But in 2 years, it's really going to switch to more of a like you need to be running this in a data center or
Yeah.
running a big cluster of them, but not missing the boat on that, upgrading my gear so that I'm still able to run in that environment means I get the potential to play that lottery and get a sweet $250,000 payday. But those
What's
boys have been running their shit forever, to
yeah.
get to that point.
What would be like the, I guess, difference in like, uh reward ratio, difficulty of, I'm trying to phrase the question, but I don't even know how to fucking say it. It's just I never asked this question before. I guess so as more people get into being validators as opposed to people becoming miners in Bitcoin, the chance of that reward, that lottery, what is the percentage offset of more validators and your chances being decreased in that big reward as opposed to, obviously more people getting into Bitcoin and being a solo miner and your chances of being decreased? Like, does it matter if, like, more and more people start validating on Ethereum? Does that affect your validation rewards as much as it would affect more mining operations starting up and it affecting a miner's ROI?
It's a fucking great question.
I
I
didn't even
think
know
the
how to ask
reality,
it.
yeah, no, it's a great question. The question is basically as more people start validating, does your chance to earn rewards diminish in any way, right? Um, and the short answer is no, but there's some complicated math, right? In that when we've got more validators, we've got more volume on chain. We got more volume on chain, we get more rewards, not necessarily the random rewards. Just more transactions means I'm validating more blocks, which means I can have the opportunity to earn more. But yes, the actual lottery ticket chance of winning that solo block will go down, but it's a wash over time because I'm making more steady Eddie versus the one shot.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the clarification, man. I was like trying to figure because I don't really get to have these kinds of conversations outside of going to conferences and running into people like you there. You know what I mean? That's why I'm really excited for the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. Super excited for Futurist in Toronto and Consensus in Miami because like that to me is sort of like, if I did graduate from Harvard or Yale, that would be our graduation reunion, even though we have multiple ones, every year. I feel like we all graduated from multiple places, right? So it just makes sense to like, it's my 10-year anniversary at the Bitcoin conference. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a big
It's
milestone
gonna be
for
your
me.
it's gonna be your 10-year anniversary for real.
Yeah, I believe this is it. This is my 10-year anniversary, 2026, 2016. Yeah.
Yeah,
What are you gonna get
bro.
him, Double
Yeah,
O?
bro. You know. Oh yeah.
Are there any conferences outside of the Bitcoin 26 in Vegas that you're going to be attending? Do you go to a lot of these conferences, or you just have a few on your to-do list?
Yeah, I go to a lot of them, man. The art thing put me on the road with the art ones as well. So Art Basel Miami,
I love Art
NFT
Basel.
NYC. Yeah, Art Basel's
And
fucking
NFT
that's the
NYC.
show, man.
Big
That
shout
shit's
out to
fun.
Jody and Cameron.
Hmm.
Fucking love those guys. Shout out to Cred.
Yep. Yeah, and then Marfa, like Art Blocks in Marfa, Texas is a blast. I do that every year. Last year I was on the road for over 200 days out of the year with a couple of my crew, just straight up on tour like a hip hop group, man. There's enough like art events and crypto events to just keep it rolling. You just keep on going from one to the next to the next. So that was a blast.
Man,
But
dude,
now
that
I'm
is
like,
awesome.
all right, I'm gonna chill out a little bit and maybe just go to one a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
that's a good
And it's
goal.
hard to choose. It's hard to choose for me because I do the art stuff, but also, as you can tell, I'm deeply ingrained with the technology part of it. So I'll go to stuff like Consensus or, East Denver, which really is not very art focused. And some of my art friends are like, I got nothing to do. I'm like, well, maybe you should get involved with more crypto. Like I got plenty
Yeah.
of shit to do at these dev conferences,
Hey,
even
yeah,
though
I
I'm
feel the
not
same
really
way.
a
That's what I
dev.
did. I got, I was already into art, and Ken got me into crypto. So we found a way to put my art into crypto, and now I'm doing Bitcoin Cash tattoos.
Yeah, once you
Yeah,
start
that's the way
showing
to do it.
artists that their art is money and show them that they could be their own bank with their own money, like you're your own Federal Reserve, you're your own printing press. All you have to do is have the infrastructure for that economy, and it exists. It's called crypto. And he just like turned the artists onto it.
Changed my whole life. I swear. I'm
Happy
the
to
I'm the
hear that,
I'm
man.
the crypto Picasso.
Paper Buddha, since you go to so many events, if there's somebody listening that wanted to figure out how to approach conferences, how is your approach to going to a conference and obtaining an ROI? Especially considering, like you mentioned earlier, Beeple was making fun of ETH Denver, basically putting out the impression that it's not worth going to, nobody is even showing up, there's nothing to see or do or whatever. And I'm just curious, did you get any value out of being at ETH Denver? And also, how do you approach conferences to ensure that you actually get some ROI out of the event?
Yeah, I think like ETH Denver is a great example where, he said it wasn't worth anything, and that's probably true if you were just there for the art stuff. I was there for the AI and the technology and the stack, and my time was well worth it. There were tons of open plot activations, there was tons of AI all over the place. And so coming into it, I knew what I was walking into. If I would have had goals around art, I would have been disappointed. My goals were around learning this new AI thing and how people were using it on chain. And I was not disappointed. That was the main thing that people were talking about. There were presentations everywhere, there were side events everywhere as it related to AI. So for me, well worth it, And what I do is I try to have show notes, show goals. If I'm going somewhere, what is the purpose of this particular event? Okay, this is consensus, it's dev heavy. So maybe my goal should be around finding a dev partner to help me do a generative project or finding somebody to help me write a smart contract. But if I'm going there to try to sell my art, I'm going to have a bad day. And vice versa, if I'm going to Art Basel, Miami, trying to find a dev to talk to about making some smart contract, are you kidding me? Everyone is on coke and they're fucking high out
Yeah.
of their mind looking at art. That's not the right place for that. You got to line up your goals with whatever the show is, in my experience.
Yeah, that's very good advice right there. Yeah, everything
Yeah,
is different for how you approach it. Every event, every one of them.
yeah. I like that advice because like I didn't go with any type of expectation in mind, and I had to like on the fly pretty much gear my presentation to what I was going to receive. And once I did that, I was like, okay, instead of worry about trying to do tattoos here, let me worry about trying to learn crypto here. We'll do tattoos at the after party. We won't be talking about crypto so much. We just worry about tattoos. And like it definitely played a part as far as when you know what you're expecting, you know what to expect, you know how to present yourself.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, yeah. And there will be some conferences where you'll definitely be able to do tattoos in the middle of the conference venue and nobody will care. And some conferences, yeah, you'll have to stick to the side events. And I don't know if you saw Paper Buddha, but yeah, Double O Tats was at ETH Denver doing tattoos at all the side events. I got one at the Vibes Check party right here at the rave. In the middle of a rave, I got a tattoo.
I love that. Yeah, I need to get some more work done too, man. But to
Well,
your point,
Oh yeah,
be prepared. You know what I mean? Just because it's not an art thing doesn't mean you don't have your art ready to sell. Like I went to the Node opening in Palo Alto, and I knew it was about CryptoPunks and not about me, but I still brought a box full of prints, and I had a couple things minted so that if it came up naturally in conversation, someone's like, "Yo, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm an artist," and they're like, "Cool, let me see your art," because that's the next question. Oh, bet, here it is. I got some stuff available on primary. I got a couple things here in print. Check them out. You're into it, cool. You're not, cool. We're not here to talk about me, but I'm ready to take advantage of the opportunity, right? Like if we were sitting at dinner and I'm like, fuck, I need another tattoo, and Double O's like, I got you, like right now. I'm like, bet, dude, let's fucking go. But he couldn't say that if he wasn't ready to go. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
That's
what's
why he
that
takes
old
his
like
tattoo equipment everywhere he's
bro.
at.
I keep it
everywhere,
on me. I
Literally.
stay with it.
like
You strapped,
in the
you know
bag?
it.
Yeah, this dude's always got his gun on him. Oh man. You know what though? It makes me think of this. What blockchains or blockchain do you utilize for your art, and what criteria do you look for when it comes to tokenizing your art?
Man, I wish more people would ask that question. So,
Man, bro, that was a good ass question. I was thinking to myself,
yeah,
damn, that was a good question. He always come with some good ass questions.
right. Yeah, because I'm a little idealistic about my blockchains. And so I've started on Tezos. I started on Tezos because it was the proof of stake version of Bitcoin, right? It was sufficiently decentralized. It's very decentralized. It is not like any of these other kind of crypto chains. In the fact that people are out there like me, running a validator. That's my proof of stake. That's what keeps the shit going, and it's super decentralized. So I was like, okay, ideologically, that's for me. It's got an international audience, right? It's got artists from all over the world, and it's accessible. It's like people are buying art for 10 to 20 bucks. You know what I mean? That's some shit that I can talk to my neighbor about, and I can say, hey, there's this cool digital money and everyone's collecting art. And they're like, oh, cool. How much is the art? I'm like, it's like 10, 20 bucks. You can get some really cool shit. Oh, show me how. Right. But if I try to have that conversation with Ethereum and they're like, oh, yeah, tell me about Ethereum. I'm like, man, it's really cool. You could buy a piece of art for $100,000 and you could pay $1,000 in gas fees. And they're like, say what, bro? Like, where the fuck do we live? Who are you talking to? So there's like no real way for me to onboard the masses with Ethereum, but there is for Tezos. So I made this decision to make 80% of my art on Tezos or on a chain like Tezos that's sufficiently decentralized, accessible to the international audience. Again, my art uses a lot of Buddhist imagery, and a lot of Americans can't even fucking spell Buddha. You know what I mean? So I'm in tune with where my demographic is overseas. And so, okay, like, let's be international about this thing. And then Ethereum is really, and I'm not shitting on Ethereum because Ethereum is really great at this institutional level museum. How do we get the big money bags involved? Yeah, the $69 million sale for Beeple is not happening on Tezos. It's just fucking point blank. That should exist on the Ethereum network. And so I've always had this kind of experiment on multiple chains, have Ethereum and Bitcoin really be the thing that is the prestige, where the main volume, the workhorse is Tezos, the workhorse is Solana, right? Solana I messed with for like a year or two and was like, okay, it's kind of getting a little too centralized. As soon as they stopped collectors from making withdrawals when they had a shitty day on an exchange, I was like, yo, if you can stop people from making withdrawals, this is not decentralized. Like, fuck this chain. And so I immediately just kind of like rolled it up with Solana. I was like, all right, that's cool. We've got work that exists over there, but I can't in good conscience go to bed knowing that my art's not really decentralized and that a couple of dudes at Sequoia Capital can like turn off the faucet whenever they want.
I
Like, I
feel the
wasn't into
same way
that at
about
all.
Ethereum since ETH Classic and the whole rollback of the DAO and everything. I've still never felt as confident in Ethereum ETH as I did before the fork.
Yeah, I mean, same. What I will say is it's getting more decentralized by the day, which surprises even me. Like, I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, oh, Ethereum is so great, because I don't think it is. But it continues to get more decentralized as the days go by. They're addressing things like the fact that running a validator is 36 ETH to stake. Most of my friends cannot afford that. That means that
Yeah.
no matter what, it won't be really decentralized, right? It'll continue to
Well,
move
they
towards
could
more and
pool.
more
They could pool.
centralization.
There are pools.
Well, and now what they're doing is in the roadmap, they're knocking it down to be micro validators with 1 ETH requirement. And like, great, that moves
Oh
us towards
man.
decentralization, right? That's more people get to experiment with this rather than less people. Because that's always my thing. If you make it hard, like if it's 36 ETH and ETH costs $20 each, well, most people can get involved and they can stake a validator and have a voice and decentralize the network. But then it's a $2,500 ETH and it's still 36 ETH. Bro, no one can do that except for institutions. So what does that mean? It gets more and more centralized and more of a good old boys club, right?
Well,
Coming back to Michael Saylor,
you would consider that security though if you're coming from their perspective, right? It would be more secure. That's why like I think the Ethereum NFTs will be where you'll see like RWAs and like deeds for houses and stuff like that will probably be homed on the Ethereum, because of that centralization aspect where it's like we look at it as like a security flaw, but they look at it as a security, in general.
right? And that's where these ETFs, like the ETFs are so interesting, the RWAs and ETFs, because what that is that's not that's not their money. You know, it's somebody else giving them permission to play in our realm, but not being decentralized. That's JP Morgan owning a ton of ETH and then giving their clients exposure to their own ETH. But
Yeah.
then guys like us can still be decentralized. So it's an interesting kind of mix of both of these things. But the higher the bar is to start a validator, the less decentralized, the less voting power, the less say any of us even have into what's going on.
Yeah, I pulled up a story earlier. I didn't get a chance to really read it on Decrypt. I just have like the thumbnail here of it, but I was just checking out some stuff before the podcast, and just it's on topic here. It says the Ethereum treasury accumulation is getting concentrated. Tom Lee's Bitmain added 71,252 ETH, about $152 million worth, pushing its holding above 4.8 million ETH, or just under 4% of circulating supply. As ETH hit a weekly high, taking points is ETH becoming a new treasury asset trade. How much concentration is too much? And does the treasury firms become pseudo ETF substitutes once staking yield is layered in? Which is crazy. This is before the show even started. I was just going over some like 24-hour like news articles just so I can keep up to date with shit. And I was even thinking like, yeah, like what happened to Bitcoin with like Michael Saylor is happening to the same way with Ethereum. But again, they don't really care about us at that point. It's never really about, you know, anything but the institutions. Once they're involved, they only just try to get their other institution buddies involved, and it doesn't matter anymore. Like, again, this is for the benefit of how they want to use the network. We could always fork it though, right? Like if we don't like how it's evolving, we could fork it as a community. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing as these years progress and more corporations and governments get involved. We're first probably going to start to see corporate forks of Bitcoin, corporate forks of Ethereum, and then we're probably going to see government forks, you know, an American fork of Bitcoin, a Russian fork of Bitcoin, and all the experiments that we've seen from ETH to ETH Classic and
Oh
Bitcoin to
my God.
Bitcoin
I
Cash
hope they
has
don't do
just
that
paved the.
dumbass shit.
It's too easy not to though, right? Like once it
Yeah.
gets to that tipping point, they could easily do what they need to with their liquidity that they're providing to a network that we're protesting. If we start to protest BTC and Michael Saylor's got 5%, he's just going to fork it. He's going to get an airdrop of 1-to-1, and he's going to dump the BTC and buy his USD, BTC, whatever the fuck coin, right? So it will become weaponized. I think like a financial world war could be taking place right now. Like it's just, this is the start. There wasn't like infrastructure or a foundation. There wasn't land for a financial war to take place because of all the derivatives and things preventing certain, you know, economic attacks from happening when it comes to like investing in currencies. But
Yeah.
now there are these attack vectors, and I think that we're definitely going to start to see forks and all that shit coming from Coca-Cola will have a fork, fucking then America will have a fork.
I can see that. I see what you're saying. Like a brand of Bitcoin for each brand type shit.
Yeah.
Type
Absolutely.
shit. Yeah. But that would make it like that would centralize it in a way, right? Wouldn't it for each
They
brand?
don't
That would
care.
be.
They don't want you to buy their shitcoin. They just need a way for them to use the technology the way they need to. And they don't, you know what I mean? They're not selling it to you. They don't even want you to use it. They're going to fork it for themselves.
I mean, that's one of my favorite sayings in crypto of all time is if you don't like it, you can fork off, you know, and like, so many people are going to be doing that. They're just going to be like, fuck it. We don't like the decentralization part of this. So we're going to go ahead and centralize this and make a JP Morgan coin, you know, but
stupid.
It's
stupid,
Look
but they're
at these
going
data
to.
centers, bro. These data centers are going to be the centralized mining hubs of those centralized blockchain projects. They're not going to sit there and be BTC mining at these data centers. Like, you know, they're definitely AI data centers. 100% that's the pitch, but I promise you in the fine print, every single one of those data centers is a Bitcoin miner. That is also in the roadmap for their ROI for their investors as well. And when they get that infrastructure in place, they're not going to contribute to a network that isn't in their control. They're going to fork it. They're going to dump BTC, buy their own token with that liquidity that they used to provide to us, and they're just going to keep going about business as usual. They don't need interoperability for what they want to do with this technology. That's why we're not seeing any interoperability, bro. I mean, dude, when's the last time, Paper Buddha, when's the last time you heard a topic of conversation at a conference around interoperability, bro? Like, I remember Rootstock, but nothing ever came of anything.
Only the Tezos guys, they're the only people talking about it because they are actively trying to have these different roll-ups so that the Tezos X becomes interoperable across all these blockchains, right? Their layer 2 Etherlink is an EVM compatible layer 2.
Fuck yeah.
You know, so that's crazy to think, oh, Tezos has an EVM layer and a BTC layer, and they're trying to create all these like layer 2 roll-ups that, for lack of a better word, but they're the only people I've seen talking about it.
Tezos is interesting. Were they the ones that did the T-bonds, or was that Telos? I always
I think
get
that
the
was
two mixed.
I think that was Telos. Yeah.
There is the Tezos bonds though, right? But they're not the ones called T-bonds, right?
Right. Yeah, and then Tezos has plutonium right now, uranium, sorry, as an RWA. So you can buy uranium on the Tezos network.
Oh,
You know,
that's
they're
sick.
starting to do a bunch of cool shit. But they're a sleeper. You know, it's like the economics are really bad.
Oh yeah.
Primarily only been looked at for art and traditionally, but the actual protocol itself is very compelling, right? And I think that that's where we're at with a lot of this stuff, is that the hardware is really killer, the software is really killer, but maybe the use case isn't there, you know. Or you look at something else like Tau, where the hardware is not that impressive, the software is not that impressive, the narrative is super impressive, and what they're doing, making it the AI chain and all these, you know, bit tensor subnets, you know, the way that they're mining rewards and shit is really fascinating. So just because we've got the killer decentralization or the killer tech doesn't mean that's what's going to get adopted, unfortunately,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Kind of coming back to your thing about like at what point is it too risky or too centralized? It's at 3%, bro. You know, we talk about the 51% attack vector, like, oh, someone can own 51% of the network, can do whatever they want. 3% is enough to get investors to not invest. The second Michael Saylor hit 3% in Bitcoin, all of my venture capital friends were like, nope, I will never put another dollar into Bitcoin because that guy owns too much of it. Homeboy with Ethereum, same thing. As soon as Tom passed 3%, people were like, nope, I'm not going to invest in it anymore. Like, it is no longer decentralized, and it's a bad place to put my money.
I think that's the perk of interoperability would help with that as well. It's almost like the opposite of a derivative in this sense. With interoperability, it would just actually decrease the opportunity of centralization in any aspect. You know what, that actually might be the next first that actually fucking matters. You know, like Bitcoin BTC is only where it's at because it was the first. And like Bitcoin BTC has the first name, the first ticker, the first everything. If you look at Bitcoin Cash, code, technology, whatever, it's only not at the same dollar value because it doesn't have the same name, right? The branding, the name was first, so it has that, it was first. But but with Tezos doing interoperability, the first to achieve true interoperability sets a standard that will be forcefully implemented across all chains and networks, and that will be the next first. It could overvalue the Bitcoin BTC first, with interoperability being the next pinnacle of firstness. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, first matters here in crypto. Like, you're the first to mint something, first to, you know, whatever, like, it matters, right? You're the first Bitcoin podcast, still has a lot of value, right? So I think interoperability coming from Tezos makes the best sense, and that's, you know, and it would just be the best for all the space, but it could be their opportunity to paradigm shift. It could be, anyway. I don't know. The last topic I wanted to talk about before I wrapped it up, I know we're kind of coming up on the hour here, though, were these acts. You know, we've been in this space, bro, since the wild, wild west, where, like, the only tax there ever was a TX. There was no A, you know? Like now all of a sudden there's TAX in crypto because like H&R Block does Bitcoin tax. It's just getting so like weird. And now we have the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and all these acts. What are your thoughts on governments trying to regulate something that is inherently unregulatable?
Yeah, it's difficult because money, fiat is the same way, bro. Like we might get me in trouble here. I'm just gonna throw it out there, but like, fuck taxes. I don't pay taxes, if I can ever avoid it, and I think everybody should be avoiding.
I never pay taxes. I never will, and I will sleep comfortably in my free fucking mattress, eating my free 3 meals a day, watching my free cable TV until they let me out of my free hotel. If they ever want to put me in trouble, fuck them. I'll never give the
Yeah,
government $1 to blow somebody else up with.
yeah, I'm with that, and I think that's how I choose to
I feel
operate
that.
too. Like my background, I mean, I grew up in the system. I grew up institutionalized, group homes, foster homes, jails. I know for a fact that shit doesn't work. I know for a
Yep.
fact that taking people's tax money and locking people up is bullshit. So for me, will I pay taxes? Yeah, I'll pay taxes, just enough to keep the man off my back. I was a drug dealer long enough to know you got to keep a cover. You got to go work at the movie theater. You know what I mean? Go work at the movie theater
Provable
for 20 hours
income.
a week.
That's the
Yeah,
word. You need
provable income.
provable income.
These days, I'm like the worst cannabis consultant on the planet. I like had 13 clients last year, and I made like $1,000. You know what I mean?
Damn, you suck at your
um,
job.
I'm the worst. I'm the absolute worst. What I will say is,
Get
the
high with
tax
them.
the tax thing is heating up. And so if you make visible crypto money, then like with your government name, as in you go to work and they pay you some stable coin, pay taxes on that, or they're going to come get you. If you're out here and you're making a bag in crypto the OG way, you're farming, you got some DeFi shit going on, you're flipping PFPs or whatever, they don't tax what they don't know about. So if they want to send a bill to fucking Paper Buddha at 555 Paper Street, like go for it, homie. I'll go pick that shit up at the mailbox. You know what I mean? But until then, you can go fuck yourself. But if you see me actually offboard some crypto into my bank account,
Go, go fork yourself.
believe, yeah, believe that I'm going to pay some taxes on that to shelter myself. But
Well,
also, I'm not just like raw dogging it, transferring Bitcoin over to a Cash App. I'm coin joining and shuffling and making sure my shit is covered, before I come out into the fiat system. So it's a bit schizophrenic where you have to have this kind of, a non-crypto presence, and then you're at a point now where you can't really exist and not be doxed a little bit around crypto. So
Well, with
yeah, I got a
Chainalysis, I
Coinbase.
mean, dude, you cash out once anywhere ever, and they're gonna Chainalysis it all the way back to you at Paper Buddha. Unfortunately, you know what I mean?
Right. And that comes to like, how did you set up originally? Did you set up your anonymity the correct way from day one, where they literally think Paper Buddha is a real human? And like, there's provable shit online for the last 5 years of like, oh, Paper Buddha looks like this and he's checking in over there. And this is the costume that he wears, versus my real government name, when they fucking call me Ichabod and I'm over here like looking totally different. Right. And I'm wearing my Clark Kent glasses and shit and walking into the bank like, hello, guys. They don't really associate those two people as the same thing. And they can't, because like we're covering our tracks the right way in crypto. But if I'm earning a crypto dollar from somebody that's going to report that I earned a crypto dollar from them, right? Then yeah, I'm probably going to report that and pay a little taxes. But I'm never going to let that hit the system. That never
Well,
hits the real Paper Buddha system.
well, that inevitably brings it up to the final topic here is like, don't companies and corporations and governments also want to be able to utilize all those opportunities that we have here in crypto to do that as well? And won't that eventually lead to these companies lobbying for different tax laws since they get to utilize these blockchain loopholes that we're utilizing?
Yeah, you're already starting to see it. You're already starting to see like staking rules is not a thing that's talked about very often when we're talking about cryptocurrency and we're talking about regulating crypto. Man, we're just asking for a little bit of clarity here. I don't really need you to talk to me about DeFi rewards or staking or airdrops or any of that as taxable incomes. Let's just talk about some blanket shit. Like, yeah, that sounds good. We'll pay you 10% taxes, on these very few set of transactions. Then we'll call it a day and we'll move on, right? They're not actively trying to get regulators to regulate everything down the chain. just like some high level shit, and then please ignore me. Same thing with the weed world, right? It's like, yo, definitely just tax me a little bit, 20%, 25%, let me pay my taxes and then fuck off and don't bother me. Because like, don't look at all the shit that I'm throwing over the back door. Like that's the same kind of an idea here in crypto, I think. Little bit of regulation, light work, let's not dig into the skeletons in the closet. And that's how all of these institutions also get to benefit from, big rewards, running validators or, staking rewards or mining rewards.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the benefits we get from corporate adoption. Like, I'm looking forward to them lobbying on our behalf just because they're one of us now, too. Like, in the sense of not having to work with the banking infrastructure, you know what I mean? Like, once Coca-Cola realizes they could be their own bank, and Disney and Apple, and they all realize, wait, we could be our own bank? Why the fuck are we giving anybody any percentage of any of our money transfers or anything? I think that is when they start to fight for us, or at least for themselves that benefit us. I guess we can wrap it up here, Paper Buddha. Thank you so much for coming on Not Another Bitcoin Podcast. Shout out to my co-host, Double O Tats. Let people know where they can find you on the socials and how they can, get in touch with you and your art.
Yeah, man, thanks. It's been a pleasure to be here. Paper Buddha, Buddha. That's my social pretty much anywhere. paperbuddha.xyz. Look up my wallet, if you're trying to buy shit on Tezos, paperbuddha.tez, paperbuddha.eth, paperbuddha.sol, everywhere. Stuff that we're building today, building a lot with AI and the agentic future and very active Telegram. So feel free to reach out to me in Telegram or on any social. We'll get you plugged into the private invite-only Telegram where we are talking a lot about how to use AI in our daily life, automating stuff like being an artist. Great. I've always wanted to have a whole studio, a whole agency. So we're building that kind of stuff, right? We're building all kinds of cool shit with AI. We're talking about the future of crypto, keeping each other informed as a community, and sticking together. That's the whole deal here. But yeah, man, I really appreciate being on and being able to chill.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in Vegas, bro. It's only a couple weeks away. I'll get to see Double O. He lives in Vegas, so if you're looking to get some ink done when you get to town, man, Double O can do a tattoo anywhere, and we just found a really cool smoke lounge that's like really friendly and will probably let us do whatever we want. They pretty much said so. So Vegas is going to be a really cool vibe. I'm looking forward to it. If anybody's listening, if you can't get a ticket to the Bitcoin conference, just go to Vegas because it's Vegas, right? And then LobbyCon, hang out in the lobby of the venue where the conference is at. Still do your normal Vegas trip, right? If you can trick your spouse into it, call it a vacation with your spouse and whatever, but you can go to Vegas, go to Bitcoin 26 for free, hang out in the lobby, and if you stand near the security wand people and the security terminals, you'll see everybody that's going to be a speaker. You'll see everybody that's going to be at the booth. You'll see everybody because everybody has to go through the same security. So again, Paper Buddha, much appreciated. Everybody visit paperbuddha.xyz. Check out Paper Buddha's art. Double O Tats, love you, bro. I'll see you soon. And this was Not Another Bitcoin Podcast. Have a day.
For sure, you know what it is.
Hello, happy bros. Hey, you're about to get a face full of the Ken Bozak. He's a mentor. That's what I heard. He's a connector. Oh, yeah. He's a brilliant leader. I've seen it. He's Ken Bozak. Oh, happy bro. You gotta get some Bitcoin and hold it. Happy bros. You gotta get those NFTs and you gotta hodl that stuff. You gotta hodl it. 'Cause I'm Ken bro. We got your Bitcoin, bro. He's an original. Buy some NFTs and hold them. How many times does he have to tell you? Going to the moon. We're 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 gonna get real high. going to the moon. We're going to the moon. Bro, we're going to the moon. Oh yeah, we're going to the moon. We're gonna get real high. Real high. Yep. Real high. Hello, happy bros. Come get your Ken Bozak.